Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you this Frost Death Knight Dragonflight pre-patch quick guide. Similar to the Unholy one I made, I'm trying to give you all the information you need for the Dragonflight pre-patch in as short of a format as I can make it. This will include talents, the rotation, stats, legendaries, covenants, as well as gear. So everything you need to know, just straight to the point. To start off, we have the new talent system. This is a very big revamp compared to Shadowlands, where you kind of pick and build a character from the ground up. We're going to have 4 primary builds here to look at. So first of all, we have the breath single target kind of raid build here. This is probably going to be the best one overall. It gives you insane breath uptime and a ton of damage, and I think it's going to be, yeah, the meta essentially. You can choose a little bit here. Obviously in the utility part of the tree, you can be quite free with what you pick up depending on the situation. For the spec specific one, it's mainly picking up Empower Rune Weapon and Horn of Winter. So an extra charge of Empower Rune Weapon and Horn of Winter can give you some extra breath uptime, but you do give up Biting Cold and Gathering Storm. So it's kind of like if you want really long breaths, or if you want a bit more, you know, cleave and AoE. And not 100% sure what's best there, so do give that a try, give it a go. For Mythic Plus, same thing there with the breath build is very similar. Some utilities now are more important, like Blinding Sleet. Also, I would always go for Biting Cold and Gathering Storm here. We also have Obliteration. Now, just to get it out there, two-hander Obliteration is not viable in the Dragonflight pre-patch. We simply can't pick up Obliteration and Might of the Frozen Wastes at the same time, and that essentially kills any two-hander build. We can still run the Dual Wheel version. Looks like this up here, quite fixed on single target. For Mythic Plus, we actually opt for something a bit different. So we pick up the Biting Cold from our Legendary, right? So instead of going from the talent, we get it from Legendary and go into Chill Streak. And then we also swap out Frigid Executioner for Glacial Advance, and then you get a bit more AoE oriented build there. Overall, just to make it clear, like if you have a talent that gives an effect that and Legendary also gives, the talent would override the Legendary. So you can't pick Biting Cold from the tree and have Biting Cold Legendary. You will only get the talent Biting Cold. Same thing with Unholy Ground that gives haste when you stand in Deafening K. Like you can't pick up Pheromones if you have that, which is the reason why I still my Obliteration build and not picking up Unholy Ground, because you want Pheromones as Legendary. Anyway, all the talents, let's move on to the rotation. And this is quite simple because the rotation really hasn't changed from Shadowlands moving into Dragonflight pre-patch. We have the core single target rotation up here. Essentially, if you picked up Cold Art, you use that at 16 plus stacks. Try to time it with your Fallen Crusader procs or use it in your pillar if possible. Spend your runing power to keep up your Unleashed Frenzy buff. This will be kept up automatically when your breath is up, but when that's down, you need to make sure you keep it up with Frost Strike. You use Obliterate to consume your procs of Killer Machine. You use Howling Blast to consume your procs of Rhyme. You use Remorseless Winter and Cooldown. Use Obliterate to make sure you don't overcap on runes. You know, when you don't have a Killer Machine proc, you use it to not overcap on runes. We do then use Frost Strike to try and not overcap on runing power. Generally, it's much more important to spend runes, so don't mind too much if you overcap on runing power. Like, it's going to happen a lot, so don't worry about it. And then you can just weave in Oblits and Frost Strikes to spend runes to generate runing power. Quick and easy. Now, it does change significantly when we are inside our cooldowns, right? So if you're running breath, if you have breath up and running, you first of all do not want to spend runing power on any other ability, right? Doing so would drop your breath very quickly. Furthermore, we essentially just want to go and press Obliterate and Howling Blast with Rhyme procs, just every GCD we have. You want to prioritize Obliterate when you're getting low on runing power, so like if you're below 40 to 30, don't use your Rhyme procs, just press Oblitz to try and get back up to a higher number. Still use your Remorseless Winter. That's kind of it. We'll also use Deafening K quite a lot in our rotation because we're running Night Fae. So just like Remorse Winter's used on cooldown, we're also going to use Death's Due on cooldown. When you pick up Obliteration, it's really quite different. What changes here is when you use your Pillar of Frost, you will execute this kind of weave rotation. So every other GCD, you generate the Killing Machine proc, and every other GCD, you consume it. What will happen in reality is that you press Pillar of Frost, followed by either Frost Strike or Howling Blast. You have Frost Strike if you have Runic Power, Howling Blast if you have the Divine proc. Howling Blast has priority. That will generate a proc Killing Machine, which you then consume with an Obliterate. You then follow up with Howling Blast or Frost Strike. Howling Blast if you have Rhyme, Frost Strike otherwise, and then you go just like back and forth, back and forth. So every other GCD will be Obliterate, every other will be Howling Blast or Frost Strike, which will generate Killing Machine proc to then be consumed in the next one. It's crucial you really do this efficiently. If you kind of mess up and press something else in your pillar window, you're going to get much less damage. So this means like Remorse Winter, use it before Pillar Frost. Your Death's Due, use it before Pillar Frost. Everything else needs to go before Pillar Frost, so you can only do this weaving in the Pillar Frost window. Cool, let's have a look at the openers. So if a Breath Cinder goes there, you see it up here. We start off with Remorse Winter, double Obliterate, consume any Rhyme procs, and then we'll just press our Breath Cinder goes and start going into that Obliterate / Howling Blast rotation when we want to upkeep it as much as possible. For Obliteration, it's a bit different. We start off with Remorse Winter, use our Death's Due, and then we trigger Pillar Frost and use Howling Blast instantly to generate the first Killing Machine proc, and that's going to be a naked Howling Blast. Interestingly, but we use it because we don't have enough runes there, Runic Power to press Frost Strike, so we have to use something to trigger first Killing Machines, and that something is going to be the Howling Blast. We also use the Power Rune Weapon here early to start generating some resources and get extra haste. For Mythic Plus, the rotation really doesn't change. Like, the single target rotation is essentially identical. You will still pop down Death and Decay, which is Death's Due, to do our Obliterate Cleave. For Obliteration, it's more important to do that just before your Pillar Frost window. You can actually do it the GCD after triggering your first Killing Machine, just to get more of those Obliterate Cleaves. But otherwise, really nothing changes. If you are picking up Glacial Advance, you would use that instead of Frost Strike. That's pretty much it. Cool. Rotation down there. Hope that wasn't too quick, but it's essentially, if you want to have a bit more complicated, a bit more details, go watch one of my Shadowlands videos. It's exactly the same. For the cooldown usage, we start with Empower Rune Weapon. Use this roughly 5-6 seconds before Pillar if you're running Obliteration. If you're running Breath, you want to delay it quite significantly. Like, it's a button you press to help you get back on resources. So don't use it ASAP when you press your Breath. Instead, you hold on to it and use it when you kind of need the resources, which can be like 30 seconds afterwards, you know. We have Pillar, should you use on cooldown, obviously with Obliteration. We want to use it ASAP so we get as many of those windows as possible. For Breath, it either times nicely every 2 minutes. If you're not having Ice Cap, if you do run Ice Cap, you want to fit in 3 pillars for every 2 breaths. So you use it use it with Breath, use it after kind of maybe like 40 seconds, and then use it roughly at 1 minute 20, and then use it when your next Breath. And it's funny if you don't have it immediately when you press Breath, you're just going to use it after a couple of seconds, and that's going to be a nice burst window for you. Breath, you want to make sure you always use that when there are no mechanics that could, you know, take you out of range. We can keep it up for like a minute plus, so really do try and plan ahead here. And don't be too sad if you get forced out of melee, because that happens. We have Frosting's Fury, which you're probably not going to pick in the pre-patch, but if you do pick it, use it on moats if you have moats in the raid fight. Otherwise, just time it with whatever ads are in there. If there are no ads, just use that in a pillar. If you run Obliteration, use it outside a pillar. There you go. We have Chill Streak, press it whenever there's more than one target. Not worth the while to press on one target, but if there are 2 stacked one, it's going to bounce and do a ton of damage. We have Raise Stead, use it in AoE to consume Runic Power. If your breath is not up, you can just ignore that if you don't want to use it. You kind of have to pick it up in the talent tree if you actually want to use it. I don't know. If you're about to die, you can use it to kind of sacrifice a ghoul and survive. It's not very important. We have Raise Stead, you just macro that into your pillar. just use it as soon as it comes up. We have Cold Heart, I mentioned it earlier, right? 16 plus stacks, try to use it with Fallen Crusader procs or in your Pillar of Frost. And then we have Horn of Winter, and this one should be used like whenever you need to generate resources. We would pick it up with Breath generally, and in that case you want to use it in your Breath window to beef up your resource generation. You don't want to hold on to it for too long because it is 45-second cooldown, and our Breath windows can be over 1 minute. So if you hold on to it for too long, you kind of lose out on like a caster. So use it, you know, quite early. So not only when you have 0 resources, you know, use it when you have a couple, but you can still make use of it. You get my point. Right, for stats, we generally have 4 Breaths and goes crit into mastery, into haste, into versatility. For obliteration, the priority is a bit different, where crit, mastery, and haste are kind of all equal value-ish. I generally say that it's mastery, and then crit equal to haste, and then versatility. But really, crit, mastery, and haste are all very similar value for obliteration. When it comes to enchants and stuff, it's the same thing as in Shadowlands. Most importantly, for the Rune Forges, we want to run Razorize and Rune Fallen Crusader. All the time for Breath and Gosa, and a single target for obliteration. For Mythic class in obliteration, if you do want to pick up Glacial Advance, you swap up your Razorize for something like Celestial Guidance, so just a normal enchant. For the Covenant, we run Night Fae for both builds in all situations, and we pick up Karain, where we do pick up the first strike here. The amount of crit you get from that is really good, especially considering that both in raids you get all the FXs that always spawns ads for you, and in Myth class you always get new ads, so you get lots of crit, which both builds love, and it's great. You see the conduits here. We do Accelerated Cold, and we do Everfrost. So Everfrost in conduit, not in the tree, but you could have seen that in my builds earlier. For legendaries, we pick up Rage Earth Frozen Champion for Breath everywhere. This means that we don't pick up the talent, as I mentioned earlier. Instead, we usually go for Frigid Executioner in that specific spot. For obliteration, we do Pheromones in single target, not picking up Unholy Ground, doesn't stack, so do a slightly different path to obliteration. And then in AoE, we pick up Biting Cold. Again, we don't pick up Biting Cold in tree there. Instead, we go for Chill Streak, so it kind of replaces that, gives an extra talent point, essentially. Finally, for the gear, there's not too much to mention. We don't have the tier set in the Dragonflight pre-patch, so instead we kind of just pick up whatever's highest eye level. The tier pieces are still pretty good because they have nice stats, but you would only ever kind of convert something into a tier piece if you really wanted to optimize the stats there. For trinkets, you want to go for Scars Eternal Strife, lots of haste, and other kind of stats. Old Warrior Soul, also a great option. For the active, we generally use the first sigil, but could also use the grenade if you have that from earlier. Alright, so hopefully that was nice, quick and condensed, and did make some sense to you. Hopefully it wasn't too quick and eligible. Leave a comment down below, let me know what your thoughts, let me know if I missed anything or if you had any questions at all. I'll put down below, consider subscribing, hit me up in the Acros Discord if you have any more questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.